Thank you, Praveen. You have managed to have a very good blend of fossil fuel, oldies like us, and the hydrogens and the biomass fuels, the youngsters there, right? And of course, we are not going to go. Fossil fuels are going to remain for a lot of years. So you can see that we are going to remain as relevant as ever. Yes.
An ICN delegate kit has been changed by mistake. The bag is having a black bag with laptop. If anyone has changed the bag, please hand it over to the registration desk. So an ICN delegate kit has been changed because there are a lot of ICN delegate kits. So this bag has a black bag with a laptop. Please just check your bags if by mistake if you have one. If anyone has the changed bag, please hand it over to the registration desk or the organizers. Thank you.
Praveen, you have taken 5 minutes of mine.
Yes, yes, I will add that.
Yeah, please, thank you. Distribution strategies for fueling industry growth. So we have been talking about manufacturers for the last 1.5 days. When you manufacture a product, it has to go out of the factory, right? Distribution. That's one of the most fundamental ways we are going to export or distribute nationally, right? We are going to talk of this. We have been speaking of how India chemical industry is at 212 billion, 2022. We are going to go to 1 trillion. I was not there for yesterday's session, but I believe we also talked of 2 trillion yesterday. I think we would definitely are there if the growth happens, right? There's a growing demand for automotive industries, personal care industries, construction, lubricant, everything is there. It's all happening. We are one of the top people in agrochemicals, dyestuffs, dye intermediates, vaccines, we all know. We have really led the world, right? However, when you say India plus one, or China plus one, in fact, I wanted to say India plus one, but China plus one, there are 2 countries, Vietnam and Mexico, like we learned yesterday, are also in the fray. So what do we need to do actually? We have learned from the manufacturing side, let's say from the distribution side. Yesterday, people talked of, Praveen was there, Dr. Narayan Nair was there, Mr. B. Narayanan was there from Reliance, Professor Pillai was there. They spoke of what do we need to do? We have to have R&D, digital transformation, contract manufacturing, focus on quality, and the 4 parameters, safety, environmental compliance, talent management or training, and obviously sustainability, which we have all been discussing, right? So let's talk of these 4. Are we actually abiding by these in distribution? I mean, we say that once a product leaves a factory, what happens? Are we actually abiding by safety? Are we actually abiding by environmental norms? Is the training there? Is sustainability, are we really thinking about it? I'll just try to give you a few practical suggestions so that all of us here from the industry, from the chemical industry, maybe you could take 1 or 2 takeaways from here and implement the same. If not, you are not doing it in your industry. Let's talk of safety. See, there are a lot of organizations, I'm not trying to promote any organization here, like say Nicer Globe. They talk of transport safety, to distribution efficiency, to emergency response. See, what happens is when a tanker leaves a factory, we are even maybe transporting class 3 products, A, B, C, those explosives, hazardous products we are transporting. What happens? Are we actually tracking the transportation? Does the driver know what he's going to handle? How is he going to handle in case of any problems? Is any emergency response there, which we transport from, say, East Coast to West Coast? What happens? So we need to learn all that, and there are organizations like Nicer Globe here to help us do that. How do they do it? They have operations, they have processes in place, they have enablers in place, performance in place, and response, basically, hot lines also there, so emergency lines there, which they can immediately reach out to. So I would suggest that if you have not done it, a lot of organizations have. We see they have everybody here, like Dow's and Alliances and Clarions and Evonics, and all of them have done it. If not, please go ahead and tie up with some organization like this. Safety for training. Now, do we really, the transport is there. In fact, I was surprised that a lot of transporters who actually have these hazardous chemicals going, they don't even know what they're transporting. They mix it up. Once the products, in the warehouse, we are safe. Warehouse, fantastic. We have class A, class B, class C, we have the norms, everything is there. What happens when it goes together? They mix it up. They're not trained. We need to train the transporters. We need to have the first responder training. Now we know all these symbols of has chemicals, right? Do we train? I think it's a responsibility of all of us here in chemical industry to do all this. Train the transporters, train the first handlers. That's where we are going to be a responsible chemical industry, right? Now, one surprising thing is we transport in tankers, right? A lot of even personal care products, pharma products, we see these tankers being cleaned in the roadside and the water and all that just being drained out on the roadside. It's a fact, right? And we talk of becoming number 3, number 4 in global, achieving 1 trillion, 2 trillion. Have we really gone over the basics? We have done that. ISO containers which we export, I hope there are no problems we have received later, but there could be molecules of some other chemical in there inside. So my suggestion would be there are a lot of companies like, say, example, the Zodiac containers, who actually clean the roadside tank, clean the tankers, clean the ISO tankers, and not very big cost, by the way. We're talking of costs here as well. I myself have been doing it. The costs are not exorbitantly high, very slightly different than your roadside tanker or something which is there. Please go ahead and adopt these basically good practice organizations which will help us in export. So like, for example, Zodiac, they have this ZLDP, zero liquid discharge. They have this ETP is there. So even whatever the material they're collecting from the ISOs, they're going to the ETP and they're actually, the effluent treatment is there. Please adopt these from my side. I mean, that's what suggestion would be. EV vehicles, bring them out as much as possible. Tatas are there, a lot of organizations are there. They're going to 600 kgs now. They're moving ahead. So please adopt EVs, vehicles for transportation of your chemicals. The carbon saving will happen. In terms of warehouses, now there are green warehouses coming up. Not just warehouses. We have green warehouses means we save 30% of energy there. We have water harvesting, natural lighting, natural ventilation, solar energy. The MHEs are all electric. Please go ahead. If you have not done it, ask your 3P provider to provide you with green warehouses, because these are what are going to be the futures. The people who are going to come in, and you might have to ask for exports. They might ask you, are you adopting these sustainability norms? Do you have the safety norms? They might ask you very, very soon. So please adopt before it's too late. Responsible care is a big thing abroad as well. I was in Singapore for 6 years, Thailand, Brazil. Responsible care is very, very big everywhere. Here also, I think just 200 companies are responsible care here in India with ICC. They give the official certification. If not, please go ahead with ICC, talk to them, get your responsible care certification. Of course, you have to go through a lot of SOPs and norms, but it will be great for you for exports. Okay, so that was from my side. We have distinguished speakers here, Mr. Sethu from Celanese, guru in the specialty and chemical industry. Thank you, sir, for coming in. Rajnish, a stalwart in the complete end-to-end logistics. So we have specialty chemicals here, we have end-to-end logistics here. Pratyush is a supply chain expert from specialty chemicals, Evonik. And of course, Mr. Daljit from Antwerp port. He facilitates growth of exports from India. So Sethu, first, I can call you Sethu, right? Yes. Thanks, Mr. Sethuram. So become a friend of mine. In specialty chemicals, how can you provide value-added services to customers, right? And is it possible to customize solutions for them as well?
Yeah, thanks, Alok. See, for purposes of distribution, if I separate the companies, the specialty chemical company space up, one can think of multinationals and large companies who are actually looking to use a lot of distribution and distributors. You know, they want to focus on their core competencies, they want to focus on their key accounts, they want to focus on new application development, and really leave a lot of the distribution to a third party. And then there are the second group of companies, a lot of the Indian companies and others too, who actually have large sales forces want to be selling direct. Right now, if you really think about what distributors bring to companies, firstly, there are table stakes that are expected, right? I mean, we want market access. It could be geographic access, it could be end-use market access. Those are things that we expect for sure. The second basic expectation is sold inventory. We want them to become the buffers for our business with our customers. And third is financial and credits. As you all know, that is something that many of the large companies don't want to deal with. And so we expect that. But these are what I call table stakes. But if I look at value added, let me take two aspects that perhaps distributors should think about, right? One is this whole technical and application support kind of space, whether it be to new applications for existing customers or it be totally new customers finding. I think companies today, in the past, distributors would sell. And all the application work was being done by the companies themselves. I don't think specialty chemicals companies want that anymore. We really want the distributors to be doing a lot of that work. If I take an example, thermoplastic elastomers versus replacing thermoset rubbers. There it's not simply taking a product and telling a customer, hey, please run this and approve it, right? You have to go there, tell them the benefits of thermoplastic elastomers. You have to tell them why they need to invest in equipment, because they have to change their equipment. You have to tell them what benefits it will give them that they can go and sell to their customers, right? And we expect distributors to be doing these kind of value-added things. If I look at the second aspect, it could be about serving certain specific customers in a high-touch manner. And what do I mean by that, right? You take automotive industry or the electronic industry that's going to, I think, become really big in India in the coming years. I mean, the service levels they require is very different from what has traditionally been done. What are the aspects you need to look at? There could be simple things like keeping JIT inventory, supplying them as they need it. It could be about having systems in-house that map with their ERP systems so they're able to operate efficiently. It's about a lot of digitization that's coming. But also, as Alok went through really well, is about this whole safety and sustainability piece, right? I think these kind of customers, automotive, electronic, and increasingly most of the industries are going to expect suppliers through scope 1, scope 2, those kind of, as they go beyond scope 1 and look at scope 2 and scope 3, to provide all of this. And if distributors are not capable of doing this, I think they will have an issue. And so just to wrap, I think, distributors, I think are, and companies want to have more than one distributor for any particular market. So if you want to survive and grow, I think all of this is going to be really important.
Thank you. So basically, when you just mentioned that companies are now focusing on their key strengths, right, going for distribution, right? I think we talked the same thing about China yesterday. China, why are they developing? They're developing mega giga scales for their own. That's how they are so competent, right? But one thing is there for distributors, you need to train them, right? Because you expect your service, they are your extended arms. The companies need to train them as well, right? So do you see challenge there or?
I think it's a responsibility the companies need to take. I like the way you said it. I think a good, responsible company will see the distributors as an extension of their sales arm. And the minute you do that, you do everything. If you're going to have a good CRM system, is there a way for you to extend your CRM system to the distributor so they get the benefits?
Thank you. Rajnish, I'll come to you. The buzzword today is green logistics solution, all right? Could you please elaborate on that? Because you're into that line, into the logistics, yes. Yeah, you have the green anyway with you, right?
First of all, thanks to the organizers, and I always do that because when you identify, when you identify your logistics partner is an equally important partner for you to be competitive in an international forum, we feel that yes, we have a big challenge, but at the same time we have a client which also understands the important role that I am playing. So thanks for involving us in a room full of manufacturing giants over here, whom I would like to assure that as your logistics partner, we are working overtime to ensure that when your product lands in any part of the world, it is equally green as it would have been in some other developed countries, if I may say so. Why I'm making this statement is that just like you mentioned, there are practices which we follow in our setup in the Indian ecological system, wherein you find even some of the ISO tanks are not being cleaned at proper cleaning stations. It is a fact, let's accept it. People do take shortcuts, which is not the right way of doing things. And the day is not far off when your customers in other part of the world would not be accepting your product unless you have followed that green path. So what you asked about in terms of what are the steps that the logistics industry, logistics players are taking to make the entire supply chain green, I'd like to divide it into three parts mainly. Right from your factory to the customer's warehouse, you have a road movement happening from the factory to the nearest port. You have the cargo being handled at the port, and you have a shipping leg. Once it reaches the final destination, there's the same activities covered at the other end also. So first I would like to cover the shipping part because that plays a major cost head. So in shipping, basically all ships are regulated by the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, which has laid up very stringent, ambitious targets for itself, wherein it has said by 2030, all ships in the world would be net zero by up to 30%, by up to 80% by 2040, and by 2050, the entire all ships in the world would be net zero. So that's a very, very ambitious target, and ships are moving in that direction. We already have all the ships in the world today are using VLSFO, that is very low sulfur fuel oil, which emit very low sulfur fuel oil, which came from 1st of Jan 2020. The next step to that, to achieve this net zero target, is what IMO has been asking ships to do. It's not compelling, but asking ships to do is to switch over to cleaner fuel oils. So we are seeing ships today running on LNG. Next is hydrogen. And after that, we are also looking at ammonia. Hydrogen and ammonia are still a little bit far off because there are, at a commercial state, it has not been developed, but LNG is already developed. We have a good portion of ships being built in different shipyards in the world, which are going to use LNG, mainly in the container sector and in the passenger ship sector is what we are seeing that. Now, building a ship is one part of it, but then you need to have an entire ecological system wherein the ships need bunkers, you need to have somebody who can supply those LNG. So today, like in Asia, if you see a ship going out from China to Europe, you have LNG bunkering available in China, you have one available in Malaysia, and you have two options in Singapore. And then right up to Europe, you don't have anything available. So you need to develop these ecological systems. Say if you have something developed in India where, say Port of Cochin, where we can have LNG supplied to the ships coming in, then you will find more and more ships are adopting that as a bunker fuel. So what we are moving towards a cleaner fuel. It is happening in stages. Maybe 1 year, 2 years down the line, when we sit here, we'll find that there are more bunkering options available. So that's the easy part. Ships is done. Coming to the ports. The container movement at the port or the ship movement at the port, again, there are one which is a marine movement, second which is on port movement. So on the port, you see the RMQCs, the RTGCs, the reach stackers and all the equipments. There is a huge rush to switch over all these equipments to electricity. I mean, look at all the port operators, the Adanis, the JM Baxis, the JSWs, they're all announcing they're going to have all their port equipments running on electricity in the next 1 to 2 years. So that's again something that's moving. Where we are slow is in terms of the marine equipments. What about the tug, which help you berth the ship? These tugs still use diesel oil or other forms of fuel only. There is a drive happening if these tugs can also start running on electricity or on batteries, what we are talking about. The rules of those are not framed properly as of now, but yes, it will take few years time before we can have the tugs also moving on electricity. Coming to the third part, which is that road movement. We are seeing there is a huge shift towards in the passenger cars, shift towards electric cars, but that's little slower when it comes to trucks or trailers which are moving your containers. So I think Tata's, the Ashok Leylands of our country would again be moving towards that. So the point I'm trying to make over here is ships are little ahead. Next is port, and third is the road movements. But the shift is happening because I sit down with my clients and they ask that Rajnish, I have my plant which is able to certify as to how much carbon emissions I'm doing. But what about my supply chain? How green you are? So this is the reply that generally I give, sir. Give us few years time. We are moving towards that, but it will be a few years before you can say you have a net zero supply chain. So shift is happening.
Thank you, Rajnish, for explaining it so well, from the ships to the ports to the road transport. And you're saying the shift is happening in the ships. I thought it would be the other way around, right? I was reading an article in Economic Times a few days ago that the shipbuilding infrastructure is actually quite choked. And Adanis have got into shipbuilding now. That's the latest venture. So I think if anybody answer, I believe they're getting into shipbuilding, and they will be developing these LNGs, not obviously the old fuels ones. They're developing the new engines, which will happen in 2028 onwards. So that's again, I think, a big infrastructure which you can actually move to.
Yeah, truly. So what happens is shipbuilding, if you look at it, in India, we have less than 1% of total shipbuilding share in the world. So there's a huge potential for shipbuilding to come up in India. With the freight rates going so high, which all of you would have experienced in the recent past, the shipyards are choked up with orders. So there is potential available for shipyards to come in different part of the world. And these shipyards, the new ships that would be coming, would definitely be using much more cleaner fuels than the traditional fuels. So today, when you look at shipbuilding orders worldwide, about 30% of container ships on order are going to run on LNG. More than 50% of cruise ships which are on order are going to run on LNG. So that's the fuel for the future. So whosoever is setting up a shipyard today, definitely these are the fuel options that the ships would adopt.
Thank you, Rajnish. I'll come to Pratyush. Okay. You can see alliances happening. We've been talking of alliances in the past sessions as well between various hydrogen. We're talking about you need alliances from various hydrogen manufacturers, industry, right? So do you really see the need for strategic alliances in the supply chain industry? What are your views on that?
Yes, so there is a big need to have small alliances in supply chain industry. We always can see and read about strategic alliances at global level or maybe at MNC level, our listed company level, but now there is a need to have those alliances at warehouse level, at the area like B1D level, where there is a, you can say, topic of return freight. So whenever producers are available in one area or one region and then they distribute it to across different parts of country. So how this can be clubbed together, or what system can be placed. So certain companies are working on this part. So we have an example of Zomato making sure that database is utilized for Blinkit. So similar way, I expect this to happen somehow in an industry where we have different transporters and definitely the companies like Nicer Group supporting for different sustainability initiatives. So while saying that, those companies, the warehouse service providers, the transporter, where they have visibility into customer details, then this can be really utilized well for different types of supply chain. So for example, we have paint industry running in different regions, supplying paint to different areas, and then some FMCG industry, or we import a lot of things at, for example, Nava Sheva. So from Nava Sheva to paint companies, there can be a return freight. So how this can be utilized for each and every segment in this industry, including specialty chemical. Definitely there are has, non-has. So how this can be done together, or how this can be treated separately. So overall awareness in this industry has to go up, and there are certain exercises going on according to make sure that this happens very soon, and this will benefit the overall supply chain a lot. I'm not sure about the cost, because some part of costing really went into this kind of efforts. So these efforts went into deriving the costing, and currently it seems that this may not be very cost economical, but definitely to save the carbon footprint, this will definitely help companies to claim those green credits. And then in turn it will help us to evaluate to a next level of supply chain strategies or alliances in smaller scale, where this will directly indirectly benefit small suppliers, and then this can be done through warehouse service providers as well as 3PL partners. Yeah, and so that's the point in overall strategy.
Because when you mentioned that, see, cost optimization will happen, obviously, when you plug in, say, example, paint or especially chemicals. But who's going to do that? Is a 3PL, the warehouse guy, going to do it? Or the freight provider going to do it? Or your companies and Asian Paint is going to come with Evonik and do it? I'm not very clear on that.
I learned from the market. So there are certain companies, those who are working to bring those 20-liter drum or 20-liter drums, specifically plastic drums, back to their industry or processing unit. They have certain IP. They have certain processes developed to clean those drums, and they are directly discussing with the paint companies for those requirements. They have come up with a facility as well, and these companies are making sure that these drums can be sent back for relabeling. And these packaging requirements will also be taken care of by these companies. So how to use the life cycle for a particular drum, and that this can also be effectively pass it on to different areas, different packaging requirements slowly. So there are examples in the industry where this has been taken care of.
See, norms are coming up, by the way. Let's talk about the lubricant industry. You have norms coming in where you have to collect back certain percentage of base oil lubricant sold. Right now, you just need a certificate. But very soon it's going to come that you have to collect first 10%, 20%, because recycled oil has to be as a proper component of the main lubricant. So things are coming in very soon. So you're right. This has to come in.
This will go well with circular economy, where everything has been discussed in a broader scale, where we discuss about leasing, we discuss about reusing, we discuss about creating certain value or adding certain value of the use packaging system itself. So this will happen very soon, and that will definitely offer a certain advantage to all companies. Yeah.
Thanks. I'll come to your circular economy. Hold that subject. Okay, I'll come back to you on that. Daljit, of course, you're from Port of Antwerp, and thank you for helping India grow to some extent, right? So to grow this industry exponentially, how do you think this customized solutions and value-added services are going to work?
Thanks, Alok. So, as a port, I mentioned yesterday that we are an industry-led port, and we have a lot of big chemical industry. But we also are a big ro-ro port, the largest ro-ro port in the world. We do a lot of break bulk, project cargo. That's what we do. And companies over time have built that expertise to actually do a lot of value addition. Now, post-COVID, what we've realized is that, Sethu sir just mentioned about GIT, but of late, what is happening with all the disruptions, we are living in a VUCA world. A lot of disruptions are happening, and you don't know where your supplies are going to end. So customers, exporters particularly, we face that. Exporters are very concerned about their deliveries to the customer. And what is happening is now the trend has slightly shifted from just in time to just in case. If something goes wrong, would their customers have to suffer, or can they actually stock these products there? So companies are also tuned, all these warehousing companies that are there at the port, now actually tuning to give in a lot of value addition and customization to Indian companies. Now, customization is different for each product, It could be either a service customization or a product customization. The service customization, when I say, is more like, when you send your product unloading and loading is one aspect of the companies that they do. But they would also assist you in arranging the next mode of transportation, to your end deliveries. Plus, you also ensure that your freight forwarding, your customs are taken care of, your quality control is taken care of, that can be taken care of. Sorry. When it comes to product customization, every product will require a different kind of customization. It depends upon what kind of product it is. For example, if it's a ro-ro, it's a ro-ro. We don't have many ro-ros actually going out from India. But in case of a ro-ro, if you have a vehicle coming in, companies can do your spray painting at the port. They could actually do a lot of accessory enhancement to your port area. So those kind of products can happen. With steel, a lot of steel actually goes from India. It goes in coil forms. So that can be decoiled, that can be slitted. Galvanizing can happen at the port area. You have a lot of, end product customization, which is your galvanizing can happen. Your product could actually be sandblasted in the port area. So these are really value additions that can happen. In terms of chemical sector, if you talk about liquid bulk, a lot of product that goes can be put it back into drums, silos, depends upon what packaging is required. We also talk about doing a lot of blending toll production in the port area, depends upon what product it is. And also, you also talk about companies doing managing your inventory at the site. So you're sitting in India, you're sending a product, the product is there in the warehouse or the storage tanks. Companies can do your complete end-to-end delivery for the customer. They can manage your inventory. They could even offer you services of whether your product requires a lot of cooling, heating, that can be there. So, when I talk about this, there's a complete range of customization that happens. This is actually very useful in terms of when I said just in case, because what we've seen is companies are also establishing base there, using these warehousing for ensuring that the customer doesn't suffer, because most of the times, if you have exports, your customer gives you a schedule for the year. So you don't want your customer to suffer. Right now with the Red Sea issue, and Rajnish may agree that, we had a lot of disruptions. Cost went up high. You still have to negotiate your cost. The insurance was high. So, all these factors will actually play when you start stocking your products in certain markets. Plus, I think one of the other customization is also important is the use of bonded warehouse facilities. And we have equivalent almost bonded warehousing at the port, which can help companies stock their products and only pay custom duty and VAT when they release the product out of the warehouse. So I think that's what we can offer at the port area.
Thanks, Daljit. I think this VUCA world and just in case is where I think China plus one came in, right? Just in case next time what happens with China, that's why we are there, and we are actually moving, and the industry is booming. I'm surprised because I've gone to Neva Port and all those places, and I've seen these end-to-end deliveries. I've also seen bonded warehouses there, but I've never seen this product customization part. So you think each kind of port is coming up with this kind of a concept as there to give value-added services?
I think that will be the need of the hour, because when I'm talking to the industry out here, and I've talked to a lot of state bodies and attend a lot of conferences. I was at one of the India Ports Conference last month, in fact. So a lot of these ports that have been developing are actually building on the model of industrial-led development. So when the industry starts coming in, I think you need the companies, warehousing companies and the logistics companies to look at value addition, because, that is where your products will move accordingly. Everything from the factory, if it is shipped, then it becomes, why do you need to be near to the port? So your port has to have some kind of a value addition, particularly for ports which are going to be also import oriented. When you get products from outside, that will also be helpful. Also with export.
Very interesting. I think things are happening, things are changing each place. And of course, we have a lot of Alibabas coming in India as well now, a lot of startups coming in. Sethu, coming back to you, okay? You talked of that you need distributors, right? And for distribution, and then you also mentioned that you need training, and because you're going to be an extension of your arm, etc. But is direct to customer route also possible, or you just need to go directly just through distributors? Is it?
That's a good question. I mean, firstly, if you take the first group I mentioned, MNCs and so on, between 50-60% they are selling direct to large customers. Okay. If you take local customers, maybe it's a bit even more. So there is, in a sense, in a traditional way, there's direct to customer happening. Now, if your question was more around using technology to go direct to customer, I think it's very mixed. I really don't think the industry has had traction in that respect. I mean, I see very little. There's been a lot of efforts going back even probably 20 years. There've been companies who've tried to go online and sell direct to customers. And if I look at the amount of material that gets moved through those routes, as far as I know, I don't have specific data, I think it's very small. But I think it's a huge opportunity for companies, and we need to really think about why it has not happened. If I kind of split up that market, I think if you talk about lab chemicals and reagents, which is kind of a specialty chemical market, I think from what I know, a lot of that has happened. Laboratory supply companies are doing a lot of online business, and through them the reagents are being sold. I think the next opportunity may be for the commodity chemicals, where specifications and other things are less critical. I think if you can set up good payment systems and do market aggregation, I think in regular drum kind of quantities, there is an opportunity to do that pretty quickly. Specialty chemicals, I think, will take a bit more time because there's approvals, there's not really one-to-one replacements in many cases. So we may need to wait a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I definitely understand, because I know there was a very, I was with Brenntag for some time, right? And they used to ask me that, why don't you go to these Indian companies and ask for distribution in India? I said, they will not do it. They will go direct to customers. They will not come to us. So that's a question mark which we have to always come in with. Thanks, sir.
That is the opportunity now for companies to go create those direct to customer opportunities. I don't know if that can be done through large companies like this, or you can be the kind of route to market.
Absolutely. Rajnish, coming to you. So you talked of various factors of freight from ships to ports to the truckers. But there's another buzzword happening, digitalization. Correct? In the industry. After you talked of green logistics, I'm going to ask you about digitalization now. So how is that being used in shipping industry?
Sir, I would say there is definitely a lot of shift happening, but it's more at the back end. If you look at it at the front end, roughly, my team does roughly around 600 to 700 ISO tank exports every month. We have an app by which you can place a booking, and out of the 700, not a single booking happens through that app. We have been promoting it to our customers, and believe me, we are living in an age where we love to order on a Zomato, even if the restaurant is just few steps away from our home. We will book an Uber, and then if it says 8 minutes arrival time, we look at the phone maybe 20 times to see where it has reached. So we have switched over to technology in many places. Unfortunately, in shipping, I would say there is very less shift happening towards digitalization at the front end. What we see today when we talk to customers is, number one, they want to know where their customers is, where their container is, which they go online and check many a times, yes. When it comes to placing booking, no. All the booking happens either on email or on phone, not a single one on app. Even if we have instances happening on an app, still my sales executive will get a call. Bhai, maine booking dala tha, check karna kya hua uska. So that's I think we will live in a place where customer relationship is more personal. People love to interact with each other, and it is quite affected, I would say. When I compare with the similar volume that we do, my principal does in India, and the similar volume they do from their Houston office. When I visited them last year, and there were only less than 10 people sitting in that office. I have a team of 40 people doing the same amount of work over here.
I fully agree, Rajnish. In India, this personal touch somehow is always there. They always want to talk to you or speak to you and give you the order, right? Even we had the same problem. In normal situations, we have this whole digital platform. We told all our customers, please place your orders there. And just 20-30% people do it. Just don't do it. They want to go to the sales executive, talk to them, negotiate, and then come back. So regular orders are possible, but new orders are not possible. But one thing I've been seeing is at least what we've also been doing. Apps exist in terms of, I'm talking so competitive to you guys, basically, that I want to ship a ISO tank from here to whatever it is, to Europe. I get those apps and I get the best rates from various suppliers on my, through digitalization. And then I go through the best one and I do that. That we are already doing it.
So you're a modern Indian, I would say. So, but I don't want to discourage everyone in terms of saying out sounding said is that nobody is doing it, but it is a fact that people love to talk, and in fact we also love to do that because that gives us a personal touch with our customers. The facility is available. People can use it anytime they need it. So that is again, this is the front end. But digitalization has helped a lot in terms of the back end, what's happening today. All my pricing and all we get through robotics basically, which is what is getting all the prices rather than somebody calling a various shipping lines and placing a booking or getting the rates and all. At the back end, there are a number of things that is happening for sure, like supplies to ships. The ship goes to various parts of the world. There are spare parts available in different parts of the world. There are different cost, different procedural impediments in different parts of the world. And the ship owner sitting in Rotterdam is able to decide which is the best place. I can place my spares. Even if a ship is not calling that port, do I need to shift that spare from Antwerp to somewhere else? So it is all coming through machine learning, these things, not that somebody personally decides it. So back end, yes, a lot of shift is happening.
Thank you, Rajnish. Pratyush, you talked of circular economy and you talked of the packaging, 20 liters packaging. Would you like to elaborate more on that, or even on the warehousing side, if you can?
Sure. So when we say about circular, when we talk about circular economy, it's like sharing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing, and recycling. So a lot of opportunity exists in this area. So the whole supply chain, right from beginning to the end. So many companies are working on very specialized areas to make sure that they extract value out of supply chain, because there are certain limitation on product front to add more value. So what are value added areas? Most of the time we find many value added areas in supply chain itself for the products which are already exist. There are many, you can say, specialty chemical, those we use day in and day out. Maybe, for example, we use detergent. So why can't we have dispensing machines where we just refill those packaging multiple times? We can think of even having someone picking up those containers for us and getting us back by refilling, like exactly what we get through Zomato and Swiggy. So this channel is also getting explored, and many companies or startups, we can say, many young entrepreneurs are in discussion how this can be taken forward in various cities, various pockets where they find a lot of, you can say, concentration of those activities. Even certain distribution centers like DMart, Reliance, stores, many of them can be utilized to understand the mentality of community, because we Indians really need or we enjoy shopping, and we also need some customized solution all the times. So how to reduce those retail packets is something is a current challenge, and there are a lot of opportunities in these areas, even within specialty companies. Those work, like there are ecosystems, like in North India we have ecosystem for pharma companies, and then the packets are really small, and then how those can be utilized, can be picked up, can be distributed. The milk supply, the whole dairy supply, the whole cold chain. So many a times we find trucks moving empty, and we utilizing the brand new packaging and then destroying it overnight. So many focus areas are available, and there are a lot of opportunities in this field where FMCG companies can think of having those. And certain specialty companies are definitely doing it, like what I told about the reusing, recycling, relabeling of existing packaging, and making sure that the life cycle of the product is increased for further utilization. They target 3 to 4x times.
Yeah, I know in India, basically, first of all, the cost of getting back the packaging is one issue. Other issue is that we have so much of duplication happening, right? There are people who are there, 10 in line, who will make an Asian paint and another directly from the warehouse somewhere else, right? So even for Scotch bottles or whatever it is, we have to destroy those, people say. So there's definitely a different situation in India, which...
Yeah, definitely. So those areas of alteration, the overall trust within the supply chain, how to build it, and then how to take it forward. So this is again a concern, and that's why we are not reached to that extent. So I don't know the detergent which I use, I will get exactly the same detergent if I refill my container. So this is something is really, you can say, worrisome, and then that has we have to go beyond that part.
All these housewives, they know very well. They see the packaging date first of all, right? Yeah. When you buy anything, it's a too old package means there's something wrong there and they don't buy it.
Yeah. So yeah, but definitely that can
We have time for just one question more, Daljit, if you can. We have been talking of responsible distribution, sustainability in various aspects. In the shipping industry or in port industry, do you think that's also happening there?
Yeah, I think Rajnish just mentioned about, shipping line actually converting quickly into the LNG aspect of everything. One of the things we've done as a port is also, we have the first hydrogen truck that's been working right now at the port. We also have a methanol truck. So these are two trucks that we own particularly. They run on biofuel, but they are their first hydrogen truck. And we have the refilling station at the port itself right now to fill up hydrogen for that particular truck. We also have companies who are actually now setting up, electric and hydrogen. That's going to be big for us because we already have a refilling station for a company called CMB Tech, which is set up a hydrogen fueling station at the port, where we actually have a lot of trucks being filled. A lot of companies have committed to, by 2025, we'll have around 300 hydrogen trucks running in the port area. That's the next part of it. But also in sustainable means, I mentioned yesterday that our modes of sustainable transportation have been really good because maximum distribution happens to inland waterways currently, which is around 49% as of last year. And then rail is the next sustainable mode. Just to give you a figure, one rail actually takes off 45 trucks off the road, which is quite the things that Europe particularly and Port of Antwerp is actually looking at. Recently, we just started a train from Czech Republic to the Port of Zeebrugge. Every week we have 2 trains now, which will take around 9,000 trucks off the road. That's the kind of things we're looking at. But overall, also looking at, how we are doing it, I think there's a lot of innovation happening in the port area right now, in terms of the fuel, but also in terms of, autonomous shipping that we talk about. We have a company called autonomous in the shipping industry. So right now we have a company called CFAR, which has developed the technology, and we have one of the ships on the estuary line from Zeebrugge to Antwerp. It runs semi-autonomously right now with the reduced crew. They have set up a kind of a shore control station at the port, and they, with the help of captains, they actually control the ships coming in from that area. And in case of anything, then the reduced crew takes over. So those kind of shipping also are working on.
Thank you, Daljit, and thank you, Rajnish. 5 minutes of yours, so that's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Whether I don't know whether that's permitted or not for the chair.
They are not willing to ask any questions because they feel that they have to have their lunch. Okay. I still see the hunger.
Hunger from both sides.
And Brenntag also, most of it is import. So how do you manage, because customers in India, they are not ready to accept this increase, one-to-one basis. So basically, if the increase is 3 times, maybe they accept only 20% or 30%.
Will you introduce yourself, sir?
Okay, I am Sandeep Daw from Wacker Metra Chemicals. So...
I'll leave it to the horse's mouth. Let them answer.
Okay.
26 guys.
Yeah, and...
Baxi. Rajnish.
So the sudden spurt in freight rate, in fact, it came as a big surprise for all of us. But there were reasons for it because of the Red Sea crisis. Obviously, the ship has to go all the way around Africa. So number one, it raised transit times. Number two, it was more expensive. And the third thing is it took away some tonnage out because the container was reaching me in 20 days. Now it takes 40 days. So the same ship is carrying less cargo. Now, once we saw that, okay, the market was still adjusted to it a little bit, we saw there is a huge surge of exports out of China because of some new tariff rules coming from US to China. We find there's a mad rush of containers moving out of China, so much that the ships which were put on the Indian trade and many other parts of the world, those ships were just picking up empties and going to reposition themselves in China so that they can carry out these containers out of China to US basically. So these are political shifts, I would say, which I don't think anybody has control. Though you have seen in the last 15 days, freight rates have come down substantial, 2-3 weeks. So that's has come as a solace to people. How it will behave, I don't think anybody has got any answer.
But could be there any mechanism like insurance or, some way to manage this, like we have a forex risk?
I tell them, look, the freight rate is so high. Can we do it for 3 months? And then after 3 months, we'll sit down again and see what the freight rate is. So, but they turn around and tell me, look, I was losing money for last 10 years. At that time, you people never came to my rescue. So it is their time to make money. You look at the profitability of the Maersk or an MSC in last 4 years, huge amount of money they have made. So
People who buy CIF, they don't have any scope,
no, people who buy, so your supplier is negotiating at that over there.
We don't know.
So we will stop here. I think you don't want lunch or?
Good afternoon, sirs. I am Sanjay Vajpayee from Zodiac Tank Terminals. And thank you very much, Alok sir, for mentioning the Nicer Globe and Zodiac Tank Terminals. We are, sir, very much complying for all regulations with respect to the environment-friendly atmosphere. My question is directly to the Alok sir and Mr. Rajnish sir, since he is having a agency for the ISO tanks as well as having a depot. So my question is, what is your criteria for selecting the cleaning depot? They are more towards the regulatory point of view or more towards the commercial point of view? Because I am seeing that nowadays the depots or the facilities which are non-complying having a large volume.
See, what we see is basically the route, en route. Where are you located? So we cannot pay extra transportation. Suppose your depot is this location is far away and my route is on that particular highway. I want your cleaning station to be on that particular place. And obviously it has to be compliant. So compliance and to some extent commercial, because obviously that matters to our customers, right? So we see both.
What we do is we strictly go by compliance because just like Zodiac, we have got 2 depots in India, one in Khandelwal and one in Nhava Sheva. And 80% of our tanks are cleaned at our depot because we know the ETP and all that are being taken care over there. We have customers. Because this cleaning takes, the cost is anywhere between $80 to $100 per cleaning, per tank. There are people who are doing it at 3,000 rupees and 4,000 rupees also. But we are very, in terms of my principals whom we represent, are very strict about it. That's why they have invested money in setting up their own depot. So to answer your question, it's compliance, compliance and compliance. No shortcuts on that.